Our American hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs has been sentenced to more than 4 years in prison on prostitution-related charges. The 55-year-old was also fined $500,000 after being convicted in July of transporting people across state lines for sexual encounters. Jurors acquitted him of racketeering, conspiracy and sex trafficking charges that could have carried a life sentence. Now, earlier I spoke with Lisa Bonner, an entertainment lawyer based in New York, and asked her what the judge had to say when explaining Diddy's sentence.
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, the judge addressed the victims, and the judge said, I see you. I want you to know that I appreciate your testifying. I appreciate your coming forward, and I see you and recognize the impact that this trial has had on you and Sean Combs' behavior has had on you. So firstly, he acknowledged that. So that was very meaningful from the judge's standpoint. And he talked a lot about what this sentence meant in terms of he is meting out a sentence that is going to be meaningful, that gives Sean Combs a chance to reflect on his behavior, a chance for him to be rehabilitated. And the judge also said, listen, I hope you take advantage of this time and really dig into the issues that you've had. He also stated that counseling and outpatient treatment would be appropriate for him to engage in, and also said, listen, you are in prison for a time, but not for a long time. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, as the judge said, meaning that he will get out and still have the chance to live a full adult life. So it's not overly broad in terms of the extent of it, but it is meaningful enough to have an impact on Sean's behavior, and it also acknowledge the victims' statements and their feelings and what happened over the course of their relationship.
Understood. The victim's front of mind for the judge. What about Sean Combs himself? He's been asked by the judge to reflect. What did he have to say, or what has been the reaction from Sean Combs or his camp straight after sentencing?
Well, that's a great question. Diddy has never really expressed remorse, true remorse, until he got up and he said, listen, I'm sorry for the behavior, when he addressed the judge. However, there were 70 letters submitted. Some were from friends, pastors, et cetera. Sean sent a letter to the judge last night where he basically, said, this was an issue of sex, drugs, rock and roll. I blame my drug use on it. He had a lot of excuses, but not an apology per se. It was an apology adjacent. So the fact that he came out and eventually said he was sorry was not meaningful enough, but he also had to walk a very thin line, because Sean's lawyer said, no matter what, we are going to appeal not only the sentence, but the conviction. So he had to be really considerate of how he presented his remorse and his apology to the victims, because that could be taken into consideration when he presents the evidence to the appellate court for an appeal.
Okay, so we expect an appeal incoming. That said, money can buy you a strong defence. Fame is another currency. It definitely got Jeffrey Epstein an astonishing deal. Why did those two powerful ingredients, to this point at least, Lisa, fail to keep Sean Combs out of jail?
Well, Jeffrey Epstein eventually got his just due. However, meaning that he was in prison for a time. But with respect to Sean, this judge had he came in after the trial had started, and he was very clear about he was going to follow the letter of the law. He was not going to engage in public opinion, because this is not a trial that is taking place in the court of public opinion. And any judge worth his weight is going to look and try to hand down and have his trial follow what you would call the letter of the law, not deviating too far either way. He consistently heard both sides when they were presenting evidence, when they were presenting challenges to the issues that were presented and motions that were presented. So the judge heard both sides, and he was very fair. So this was not a court of public opinion, but this was a court of the judge's courtroom, and he was going to really treat this like any other defendant without giving any kind of special treatment to the fact that he is a celebrity, which is the right thing to do in my account. The fact that he is a celebrity should have nothing to do with it. Sean Diddy Combs, should be tried and sentenced just like every other regular person who has a chance at putting on a case.
That said, you referenced public opinion. That's a great place perhaps for us to finish. How has this sentence landed in its early stages in entertainment circles, and how's it gone down with the public?
It seems to be it seems to be meaningful in terms of people acknowledging that, listen, he's getting something. We would have liked to have seen longer, but from a legal perspective, you have to understand that 11 years that the prosecution was asking was excessive. The 14 months was also not realistic in terms of what that would have meant for the public. So the fact that he has gotten some time that's not overly excessive, that will render him out of prison in 3 to 4 years, depending on parole after 85% of time served, is meaningful enough. So we would have liked to have seen closer to the sentencing guidelines, which is 70 to 87 months. But the fact that the judge did give him 4 years and 2 months is meaningful enough that it is okay. We're not going to quibble over it. And I appreciate the fact that he is not walking out, as do other people, because it did need to send a message to the victims that we hear you, we acknowledge you, and also to Sean Combs that you are responsible for your behavior. You need to sit down and think about what you've done. And it's kind of an extended time out, if you will, for Sean Combs to reflect and try and rehabilitate himself and his behavior.
Lisa, we'll leave it there. Talking us through the sentencing of Sean Combs is Lisa Bonner. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.